Okay.
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 Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and our colleagues. Thank you very much for coming to this webinar here today for survey results presentation of a project run by MESA10 from Slovakia with its partner organization CEAS from Belgrade, Serbia. The project of results of which we are presenting to you today is a part of a university students debates project aimed at promoting democratic values among the youth. And the project is supported by the National Endowment for Democracy. Main objective of our project is to promote democratic values among university students, and we have been doing that for several years already. Which is one of the really great added values of this project. My name is Lucia Klapáčová, and I am a fellow of MESA10 organization, and I will be helping you to get through our webinar today successfully and nicely. The project's main activities are every semester a workshop for university students and a moderated debate with the participation of 7 university teams from 5 countries. And this is one of the reasons why we are presenting results in your country as well, in Moldova today, because we have participating universities from 5 countries, including Moldova as well. From Moldova, it is Academy of Economic Studies, and we are also welcoming and saying really warm hi to our partners from this university participating here today as well with us. The other universities of our project are Montenegrin University of Montenegro. Then from Serbia, it is Belgrade University and University of Novi Sad. From Slovakia, it is Comenius University and also University of Matej Bel. And from Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have International University of Sarajevo. What is really outstanding is that 7 universities out of the 5 countries, but 1,578 students were polled in June 2020 to give us the results, which will be presented here today. And the topic that we covered was COVID-19 pandemic, and it also included the echoes of this pandemic in the world and its aspects related to international relations and international assistance and solidarity. Then perception of the European Union and perspective of the EU enlargement in Moldova, and also how the students perceive their country's future and their own role in it. Because the project run already, or has been running already for several years, we have also numbers which we can compare, and we can see how the situation has been changing in those years. And the best and perfect is that our wonderful colleagues are here with us. Milan Ježovica, who is a brain behind all projects from MESA10 from Slovakia, and social scientist Olga Gyarfasova, who has been working on these results and is really providing us with the information that tell us how our country is doing and what the people and young people in Moldova are doing about the EU affairs, NATO security, and other really important things. So for now, I would like to give word to Milan Ježovica for a little while, and then, of course, I will give floor to Olga. Also, I would like to greet our partners from CEAS from Serbia, Ms. Anja Petkovic, and also from Novi Sad. So, Milan, please.
Lucia, thank you very much for your kind introduction. I'm happy to welcome everybody on board. And I'm very pleased, happy, and honored to have an opportunity to introduce to you Olga Gyarfasova. Olga Gyarfasova is a sociologist. She's a graduate of the Faculty of Philosophy of Comenius University in Bratislava. She's a co-founder of Institute of Public Affairs, one of the leading public policy think tanks in Slovakia and in Central Europe. She's also an associate professor at Comenius University, and she specializes in research in polling, in electoral behavior, and in political culture. She is a prolific author and an avid commentator of election results, both in Slovakia and elsewhere in Central Europe. With that, I'm sure you will enjoy the presentation that she's going to deliver today. Olga, please.
Thank you, Milan, thank you, Lucia, and hello everybody who joined this webinar. So this is for the first time we are doing it online. Before in previous years, because I'm honored to collaborate on this project for several years. So we visited Podgorica and Chisinau in person. For obvious reasons, it was not possible to do it this year, but I'm very glad that we are able to meet at least in these, thanks to these technological tools in this way. So we have prepared presentation. The presentation is relatively rich and long, so it has more than 70 slides. Milan recommended me to say that we had 200, but we cut it off for a shorter version. Of course, the presentation will be available afterwards, but also I would like to encourage you. So if you have any questions during my talk, so just raise your hand. I think there is such sign available, or step into the conversation and ask what is or what are you interested in. So most of you already know this project, and I would like, at the beginning, I would like to highlight that there are three aspects of this polling in 5 countries at 7 universities. So first, we are looking for trends. We are interested in how the opinions, how the views of the young people, of the students in these 5 countries are developing, if there are any changes, and we are thinking about what are the background, the reasons for these changes. Then we are interested in cross-country comparisons, so that means what is typical for some countries and why is it so. And finally, as you might know, so in each survey, so we have questions which are so-called trend questions, so we are able to compare them in time. And then we have topical questions, so that means issues which were very current, hot issues in the period when the survey is conducted. So also these 3 aspects will be included also in this presentation. And before I start with the slides and graphs, so maybe one more comment. I would like to give a tribute and to thank all the collaborators who were involved in collecting the questionnaires and fielding this survey, because we are aware that it was much more complicated this year because of Corona lockdown, and but we decided that it's worth to do. Also, when I was looking at the results, I have seen that there are no principal differences according to the mode of interviewing. So that means that we are not dividing now the findings according to the mode of interviewing. So that means if it was face-to-face personal interview on the one side, or it was online interview on the other. So that means that all the questionnaires, all the findings were analyzed together. So with that, so we can start this tour through the presentation. And so at the beginning, okay. Oh, some technical improvement. Good. Okay. So here I will just go very briefly through these intro slides because part of them already were mentioned by Lucia. So similarly to the previous years, you see we had 7 universities in 5 countries. All in all, we had 78 students. The polling was in field during June, and on the following slides, okay, so I will come to that. So you will see also the structure, the numbers for individual countries and universities. So this year we had slightly less respondents for Bosnia and Herzegovina, but all the other places were covered by approximately 250 students. So here or what you can see is now the list of the key focuses we had this year. So this was the echo of COVID-19 pandemic. So then we had similarly to previous years the perception of the EU, the perspective of the EU enlargement, which is of course very important topic, and finally the third focus was on how the students perceive their country's future and their own role in it. So that means how do they see their own future in their country, and so what perspectives they have in front of them. Yes, and this is what I wanted to highlight is the structure of the sampling we had. So here you see that the students from Bosnia and Herzegovina were slightly underrepresented to the other countries, but all in all, as you see, the structure was similar to the previous surveys. Also here, so we had slightly more female students comparing to male, and we had more students who were over 21 years. So, but nothing special. Also, we always have the question about the structure regarding the participation in the students' debate, which was this year on June the 8th. And again, about 1/10 of the students participated. So here are 6 points or 6 topics which are summarizing the results regarding or following these 3 key focuses, and so we can go slide by slide to the first one, which is about the EU role, the image of the European Union, and also the issues of enlargement. So maybe I will give the results first. It's very good that here we see also the trends of opinions, views on these questions. So you see that for all these time points starting November 2018 to June 2020, majority of the students expressed positive view on European Union as a guarantor of national sovereignty and defender of values and interests. So we see some difference between years 18 and 19, but we see a relatively stable trend in the next years. Also, you see that the other opinions which are negative on European Union are marginal in on average, and we can follow with the views of the students about the importance of the EU Western Balkan Summit, which was in May this year. And again, so we see that positive attitude slightly prevailed, but as you can see, about 1/3 of the students, so this is the yellow bar, expressed that the results which were brought by the summit were weaker than the aspirations. And also we see that 27% of students said that they had no expectations from the summit. So what does it indicate? So that means that still we are on the optimistic side by the majority of the students, but we have to have in mind that there are voices which are very skeptical, and even voices which maybe are expressing certain fatigue or certain frustration of the fact that the expectations which are here for many years are still not met. What is the future of accession of Western Balkan countries? So we see that those who say it will never happen, so the real tough pessimists, are representing only a marginal part of the students, and we also see certain decrease in this percentage. The majority of all the students see as a realistic scenario the period after 2024. So we are approaching this year, so hopefully it will be not running away, and it will be realistic also in 1 or 2 years from now. Now, so that means to summing up the views on EU and EU enlargement. So I think that there is nothing what would deteriorate the opinions or which would cause a substantive decline. But we also cannot say that there is a progress, or that really the hope of soon or accession in a foreseeable future is something what would dominate the views of the students. So now we can move on to how the assistance of EU and NATO to Western Balkan countries during the COVID-19 pandemic is seen. And again, so I would say that the views of the students are rather ambivalent. So on the, I show the results. So on the one hand, okay, so we have 30% of students who said that, okay, this assistance was substantial and visible. So that means they really appreciated it, so they valued it. but you also see that it was nothing special, that, okay, the help from others, so be it, I don't know, China, Russia, maybe also the national governments, was about the same. And we have a quarter of respondents who said that it was weak and invisible. So that means, of course, we did not ask about specific periods of this assistance. So we know that the European Union was not very visible or was negatively visible at the beginning of the pandemic. So it was very criticized about not reacting soon and profoundly and so on and so on. So maybe it got better in next weeks, but you see that this is the overall picture which is evaluating the entire period of the corona lockdown. So that means that the performance was definitely weaker than many expected, and we also see differences among the countries. The most positive evaluation was in Montenegro, but here it's very closely related to overall positive attitudes or more positive attitude to the European Union than in other two Western Balkan countries. Okay, yeah, and yeah, so this is the EU overall performance during the pandemic. You see that very similar distribution of opinions is here, and also we were interested to what extent the student expect for the future. So what we can expect from the EU's assistance, if it, what kind it will be, what type of assistance. So you see that the most frequent response was that it will be provision of medical equipment and protective material, followed by financial assistance, education and learning, and again, more than 1/10 is very skeptical and saying that they do not expect any assistance from the European Union. The same was asked about NATO. Of course, so the views, the attitudes reflected what the real situation was. I think that the role of NATO was in general objectively weaker in this regard, and this is also reflected in the responses of the students, that almost half of them said that there was nothing provided or no help provided by NATO. We asked also about other countries, because we know that China, for example, was offering the assistance, and this was registered and mostly valued in Serbia. So I assume that okay, so we always have to have in mind, so what's the real assistance and what's the image of assistance. So maybe in Serbia, the image of China assisting significantly was more present than in other countries. Yes, now the general image of NATO. From previous surveys, we know that NATO is very critically perceived, especially in Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Of course, the different perception is in Montenegro and Slovakia, the countries which already joined NATO, and a relatively positive image also in Moldova. Here you see that overall the average results in question about what is the role of NATO is positive. We even see that it improved within last years, but still, so the perception or the narrative that NATO is aimed against Russia is not overwhelming, not dominant, but still significant, and also the views that it plays no role are present. Okay, so these are the numbers about NATO assistance. So you see the differences comparing the EU are visible. Yes, and this is interesting that when we asked about EU and NATO together on the one side, then Russia, China, and the option nobody helped us. So you see that, okay, so the majority said it was EU and NATO, or maybe EU or NATO for somebody. But China played a visible role, and so maybe this is also a stuff for further debate. So what is the image of China among young people in these countries, and how China is trying to improve its image, and what are the consequences of more active China in politics in Europe, and specifically these countries which we are focused on. Yes, and here you see the specific results for countries. You also see that China was as a significant actor seen in Serbia. So you can connect it with what I said a few minutes ago about the results. So you see that in Serbia, the assistance of China was visible and effective, even more than from NATO and than EU and NATO. Yes, so that means, so I will be quite interested in and just comment on it, and so maybe to have more background for these results. On the other hand, we see that the countries like Montenegro, Slovakia, but also in Moldova, the prevailing actor for this assistance were EU and NATO. What's interesting in Moldova, for example, but also in Slovakia, is this very skeptical response that nobody was, or nobody's assistance to our country was strong and effective, what I think reflects the very widespread feeling that we have been left on our own and on our own resources and also, of course, political leadership. So that means summing up this part, and maybe I will finish a few more slides about COVID-19, and then we can sum it up, because it's really something what is very topical, and now when it's very likely then that we are facing the second phase, or maybe we already are in the second phase of the pandemic, it's very important to see the perception of these issues, because I think it's something what really people are reflecting. It's something what touches everybody, and we have to admit that it has consequences also for other areas and perception even of more international and political issues. So we to finalize this part. So we were also interested in how students are perceiving the future, the possible assistance in the future. So here in these questions, so you see that the responses are very fragmented, so maybe it's very difficult to have this projection what will happen if in the future. So that means still we have almost 30% of those who expect nothing, but okay, some other ways of assistance are there. Okay, so this is continuing the issue of pandemic, and of course we were very much interested about what the students in all these countries are thinking about the origin of the virus, because the conspirative narratives were of course available, but I'm curious what you will say, but I was quite positively affected with these results. So, and we can say that only 23% of students said that they really believe that the virus was modified in the laboratories and spread to the humans. But you can also say that it's not only, but it's as many as, and it's not a small part of the students that who believe. Okay, so I think it's very difficult to find any benchmarks for these numbers, but I think that to have more than 40% of students who are strictly answering no, so this is not the alternative or something I would believe. So it's I think it's a quite decent result. Of course, students expect that there will be the investigation, and you see also that not any kind of investigation, but only under the UN mandate, and I think that yes, so it's good that we will, if it's possible, find out what was the reason of the spreading. On the other hand, so we see a lot of skepticism regarding the post-COVID-19 period. So the students, on the one hand, and you see 85% said that the reforms are necessary, but they are quite skeptical about the plans of the country's government. So that means that, okay, so maybe in June this year, it was still not very much clear. So if the governments could provide some concrete plans for the recovery, and of course, for these reforms, for this recovery, they see also the international cooperation as important and necessary for that. Finally, about the post-COVID-19 era, so there were many studies, article analyses, so how the world will look like, if it will be different, if the people will be more, I don't know, showing more solidarity, more cooperation, more assistance, or not. And I think that the students did not share, or the majority of the students did not share such optimistic scenario. Quite on contrary, they show some pessimism on this topic. Yeah, so here you see what you see are the results. So if what will happen or what is ahead of us for the fall winter this year. So you see that the fact that it will come and strike again, weaker or stronger. So it was the opinion shared by most of the students, more than 80%. Yeah, so here are the concrete results about what I said before. Do you believe that your country's government has a clear plan of post-COVID-19 economic recovery? So you see that this is not very good review or good grade for the national governments, because 47% of students responded no. So the country, the national governments did not have or did not present, did not communicate any economic recovery plans after the COVID. Yeah, so this is what I said already, this tension, this gap between what is necessary, what is needed, and what is presented, what is provided by the national government. Okay, so the international cooperation is important. Yeah, so this is what is showing certain pessimism about the future in international affairs. So what will come? So will we be forced to more cooperation or more competition? So you see that the majority is, or almost half of the respondents, to be precise, is on the side of more competition, egoism, nationalisms, and isolation. Okay, so So this was this part about how pandemic was perceived within the last months, what are the prospects for the future, what the students see at the international level or international arena, at the national arena, and what's their impression of what's ahead of us. Now, the next part is something what we repeated, or we had similar questions before, and this is, I would say, this is more optimistic part of the survey, because again we see that really overwhelming majority of students want to live in a democracy with its institutions. So, and 62% of students want their country belong to the West. So that means regardless, now these are average numbers, so I will show also the specifics for the countries, but all in all, so this commitment, this belonging to the West is there, but of course it's much more complicated than just one number. So here you see the trends we had for last 2 years. We even see certain increase in the percentage of those who would like to live in democracy with its institutions. So that means the overall picture looks optimistic. Now we also have this belonging as a clear compass for most of the students, but now we combine it with okay, so this is the general, the so-called sociotropic perception, but to what extent the students see the chances, the future prospect for themselves, the opportunities for their lives, their future. Here you already see certain decline, and so this is what I would like to show, that sometimes these average numbers are saying very valid, reliable message about all the countries. Sometimes the average is slightly misleading, because here you have now this, I think, very crucial question of our questionnaire about these opportunities for the future. We see the crosstabs for the countries, and here you see that what are the differences. Yes? So you see that 9 of 10 students in Slovakia is positive about the opportunities for the future, but only 1/3 in Bosnia and Herzegovina, only 37% in Moldova, 46 in Serbia. And I think that this is a very crucial, very key indicator of, again, some gaps between what young people expect from the country they live in, and what are they, or how are they evaluating the opportunities, or the given perspectives, the given opportunities. Also, you see that Montenegro, and this is not only this year, so this is something what we have seen a year ago, 2 years ago, the very positive atmosphere in Montenegro. And of course, we are inclining that the explanation of this number really lies also in what is the progress of the integration, what is the today's situation of these countries in fulfilling this dream of belongingness and living in democracy. Yes, and now we are approaching the part about the very personal plans, what the students would like to do after completing the studies. You see that many of them, really many of them, it's similar also to the previous years, are political animals, so to say. So that means they really are thinking about working for the government, for the international organizations. It's 40% on average, 35% for private companies, and some of them are thinking about entrepreneurship or being self-employed. Good. So the changes about the political changes again. So on the one hand, on average, very optimistic picture. On the other, we have to look concretely and specifically focus on concrete countries because there are some very substantial gaps, and this is what okay, so it's about the activities, but one. Okay, so it will be in country profile. So I will come back to it of these prospects for the future. But this is about if the situation will improve again. So mixed results. Yeah, on the one hand, yeah, slight improvement. On the other, we see that similarly to previous years, so it's about certain status quo, but still not the majority thinking about worsening. And this is also some positive results regarding the participation, the political participation, what could they do, so they at least could vote in the elections, and most of them is also planning to participate by these modes of political participation. And finally, I think the disinformation hoaxes and cyber security, cyber attacks was the focus of the previous survey. But still we have few questions on this issue, and we see that okay, the overall perception is that the governments are partially means, okay, so not fully, but partially addressing these problems, but from other surveys we know that young people are thinking that the disinformation is not something they would affect them somehow, so they believe that they can decide, or they can choose the right information, that they are immunized against the disinformation. Yes, and we are slowly coming to the final part, and this is a good opportunity to focus on Montenegro and Moldova, but at the same time, so the graphs are showing the specific results for the countries. 2 years ago, I was personally in Podgorica. We had the presentation there, and so these year results proved the same what we said, that the students from Montenegro belong to the most pro-European among those countries which are still outside the EU, and so it's we see that the fact that the integration is positively progressing, and the country is already in NATO, so that means it's already something real, so that they are more optimistic, more believing, or they have trust in their national government, especially when we compare this country to other two Western Balkan countries. So you see that the image of EU is very positive. Also, the perspective of joining EU after 2024, this is shared by 72% of the students, and here you see these in numbers, and these results. So that means for Bosnia and Serbia, so this time horizon of 2024 is less realistic than for the Montenegro students. Also, the students, and it's of course it's closely interconnected, the positive image of EU and also the appreciation of assistance during the pandemic. You see it here. Yes, EU and NATO was among those actors who assisted, and also this one question which I highlighted earlier, that the students, if the students believe that they live in a country capable of generating opportunities for them, I think this is a very, very indicative question, saying a lot about this personal perception of their future in the country. So here you have the results for Montenegro, and you see that it's a different story comparing the other country, of course, except of Slovakia. And so that they are positive about the future. And now we are in Moldova. Several slides about some specific focus on Moldova. So more positive view about NATO comparing to Bosnian and Serbian students. Here you see the comparison of also this very core question of our survey, and also these belongings to the West, to its institutions, is more widespread comparing to other country. But okay, in Moldova still we see a relevant minority which shares the view that my country has a special model of governance. I want it to be a part of neither the West nor the East. So this dream about the middle road or third road so is present, but I'm quite intentionally saying that it's a dream, because we had such dreamers also in Slovakia some 20 years ago. Yeah, this was, I think, Václav Klaus said that the third way leads to the third word. Okay, and so these are the specific results on belonging the country. So you see that in Moldova, the distribution is okay, majority 54 for the West, but still this 27 for this specific in-between model. And finally, yeah, and this is less optimistic, that those who really believe that the country is here for them. So here what is highlighted with the blue color is response no. Yes, so that means that only 36.8% that responded yes to this question. So this was the last slide. So we managed it in 1 hour. So I'm wondering that we did it. So thanks a lot for your attention. And okay, so we are ready here with Milan too, and Lucia, maybe also with other to answer your questions. And also I would be very interested in some background comments from the countries where we conducted the survey. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Olga. It was great, really elaborated work and presentation. So yeah, the floor is now open for your questions or comments. What you would like to know more, or where you see yourself or your country to step in. Just start speaking or just take your hand up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unmute your mic. And
unmute your mic, yeah, definitely, please. There's someone. Okay. Maybe when we do not have questions right now, maybe our partners from Moldova or from Serbia or Novi Sad, or Serbia, Belgrade or Novi Sad president would like to add something. Leonidas or Anja as well, if there is something that you would like to elaborate on or add.
Okay, I just wanted to shortly thank everyone for succeeding in conducting the survey in the times that we are facing the COVID-19 pandemics. During the discussions with the UC coordinators from Belgrade, Novi Sad, Podgorica and Sarajevo, I know that they had pretty much difficulties to collect the data on time. They had difficulties because people were not present at the universities. So most of them decided to do the collection online. So yeah, we had a lot of difficulties to face, but I think that even like with everything that is happening, I think we are slowly adapting to this new way of doing things. So one plus there. And also, I would also like to thank Olga for the great presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's my
Thank you.
pleasure.
Absolutely.
From our part.
Yep.
Hello everyone.
Yeah.
Leonidas from Moldova.
Leonidas, yes, sure, please.
Yes, sure. I also want to thank you very much, Miss Olga, for the extensive analysis and the very interesting results and conclusions that she made. For us, it was also challenging to collect all the data with all this pandemic isolation and situation and so on. But I think it was worth it. And thanks everyone for participating.
Thank you, Leonidas. Well, then if there are no other questions, I will also ask if maybe Milan would like to add something. And if not, then I think I may say that we will distribute the recordings of the presentation as well as the presentation itself for your use, so you can work at it and you can use data for your work. It can be media work or your studying work at your universities to work with your students. For NGO sector, of course, it is very important, and definitely also for the public sector and the political participants, not only participants, but political leaders in your countries. So just feel free to distribute it as much as you can in order to help to understand better how young people in your regarding countries think about EU and NATO and other really important issues which were covered. Milan, is there something you'd like to add in the end?
Absolutely not. The only thing that I would like to add is that the new ways of doing business are not necessarily nicer than the old ones. Even though during the COVID-19 we have learned how to cope with the challenge of impossibility of personal contact, I think that this is one of the features that characterizes us as a human community. And I very much hope that it's not going to die, obviously, in the future, because Zoom is wonderful. It helps us connect over the borders, but it does not allow us to have really a human contact. So I'm very much looking forward to the time when we could at least partially come back to the old times of and to doing business, looking ourselves eye to eye, because that's much more thrilling, much more convenient, and I think much more human. So I miss it.
Absolutely so. Right, well, so with these very wise words, I would love to end our presentation today. And as I said, it will be distributed to you for your use. And I would like to once again thank very much to our partners in Moldova, of course, our partners in Belgrade, to CEAS, to Anja Petkovic, and all our other partners. Of course, NAD as the supporter of this huge project, and definitely also to Miss Olga Gyarfasova and my colleagues in Thank you, and enjoy all the rest of the beautiful hot day.
Thank you all. All the best.
Yeah, thank you.